Okay, so with that, while the last folks kind of make their way by the coffee, I think I would like to see that we get this panel going. And I actually drop my agenda here. So what we have is we have the first panel. The topic is Indigenous innovation. So it's really a focus on Indigenous innovation. You'll see that the larger topic of inclusive innovation, obviously, as we've seen this or heard this morning already, comprises a lot of topics. But one for sure is how do we kind of figure out the inclusion piece between First Nations people, Indigenous peoples, and settler kind of society. All right, I'm going to get some of the terms all mixed up, and I hope you will forgive me. But what I actually think we're doing here is we're actually feeling our way through this. And I really appreciate that we have an entire panel here this morning to bring us some perspectives on the topic. And I very much thank you all for being here and actually putting yourselves out there to bring us these perspectives. And so now that we've got everybody kind of back in their seats, I would like to actually stop talking myself and actually let you do all the talking, and then I will actually be there listening and making sure that I get the most out of this. So we're going to start with Denise Anne Boissoneau. She's a legal Indigenous policy consultant with actually very broad experience and also kind of working with the University of Ottawa as well. Denise Anne, I'm going to ask you to come up here. I think you actually have a little bit of your own introduction here as well, so I'm not going to duplicate that. But thank you very much for being here this morning, and welcome everybody, Denise Anne.
Miigwech. It's a beautiful day. Welcome. Ani, bonjour. Hello, everyone. My appreciation is to the organizers, more importantly, to our elder, Rochelle, Sandra Shiloh, for the invitation. It feels good to be back on the land. I'm formally trained here at the Faculty of Law, Common Law, U of O. As an Ojibwe First Nation person, I recognize that we are on Turtle Island. My gratitude is to the Algonquin peoples for offering their traditional medicine. My ancestral roots is Manitoun Island, located in the Great Lakes waterway system. My maternal lineage, Chaging. My paternal lineage is Wikwemikong. I'm a Nokomis. My grandson is 5 years old today. I'm a grandmother of 2 and a mom of 3. In my view, the overarching question is, what if social innovation was used in this present era of reconciliation with Indigenous people and you in this room and out there? As Senator Murray St. Clair has said in the 2015 Indigenous Innovation Summit, innovation, I quote, innovation is not just about new things. It's about also bringing about the past into the present to address our current situation. Mindadomo, when is that respect? I now go into a conversation with you as we sit in this circle. However, before speaking on the topic of innovation and reconciliation, let me give you a brief overview of my life journey to date. I did practice Canadian Aboriginal law. My legal study was about Indigenous concepts and healing inside the criminal justice system. It socially impacted my well-being, my family, and community. This healing correctional model revitalized the Indigenous cultures, practices for Aboriginal offenders. For example, in Edmonton, there is a Native Counseling Services of Alberta, as well as Stan Daniels Healing Center for men, and Buffalo Sage Wellness Center for our women. I continue strengthening relationships with non-Indigenous communities through social justice advocacy and work with Indigenous communities like Minawashan Lodge here in the capital, Adawa Native Friendship Center, the Wabano Health Center. An important place to my heart is Shogwigaming, the Adawa Drop-In Center for homeless at-risk population. There's a need for more institutional changes. However, I'm happy to report that the following progress in response to the Truth and Reconciliation recommendations was in this university. 2021 law graduates will have an understanding of colonialism through Kairos, the social experiential learning exercise about Canada's history and their Indigenous peoples, or our people of the land. Secondly, in 2017, the Indigenous Peoples Court was created in Ottawa, local Ottawa. Its goal is to recognize the role of Indigenous legal traditions within the Ontario Court of Justice. Despite my years of experience, it's hard for me to understand why is it that in 2020, the federal incarcerated population constituted 43% Indigenous males and 42% females, although Indigenous peoples make up 5% of the Canadian population. Sadly, much of the same ratios are found with the incarceration of Black people in the United States. Indigenous youth, 12 to 17 years old, in custody are also overrepresented. Admission statistics show us 43% to about 8% for non-Indigenous youth population. According to John Howard Society, the average cost per prisoner in Canada, in Canada's federal prisons, is about $115,000. Higher security levels are more expensive. Costs for women prisoners are much higher. The cost per student per year for post-secondary education in Canada was a little over $20,000 in 2012. Imagine this, the cost of having one federal prisoner is equivalent to having 5 students attending post-secondary education. According to the Canadian Parliamentary Budget Officer, in 10 years after 2000, annual public spending per capita on criminal justice went up about 23%, while crime rates went down by 25%. We don't need to be mathematicians to know that there's something wrong here with levels of Indigenous federal incarceration. The high incarceration statistics stem from the impacts of previous governments' policies, such as residential school system, and are compounded by the current challenges that many Indigenous people face in accessing necessities such as clean water and a decent education. While progress is being made on those fronts, it is slow. Let me now turn to education. I'm sure that it is all clear to all of you in this room that education is crucial, a crucial element of human well-being. Beyond the economic utility, education levels of social and monetary achievements. But imagine this, your daughter, your son, niece, nephew, living in this situation. Let's call her Deborah, our new relative. Deborah comes from a remote northern area in Ontario. She's a family of 5, and her family income is approximately $20,000 per year. Life is tough, and it sucks to be poor. Mom is always sick, and Deborah's little brother, Peter, has asthma. But Deborah has a dream. It's a long-standing dream. When she was about 10, 11 years old, she learned from a community visitor about the importance of education. To access employment, she has also learned that having a university degree or college certification makes it easier to obtain employment than those that are non-graduates. From that young age, she developed a vision of herself as an educated Indigenous person. She would be the first in her family. She dreamt of like those middle-class people on television. Eat oranges and have a sweet home. From that moment, she worked hard at school, and she stayed away from trouble. No drugs or alcohol. She was a good student. To earn a high school diploma, she had to move and live 600 kilometers south at the age of 13 years old. She lived and boarded with a family. She got lucky. Her boarding folks were good people who cared for her and provided guidance to Deborah. Much because of these folks' guidance and support to Deborah, much because of what they had done with her and for her, Deborah was able to avoid predators and pushers. She was made to feel safe. Thus, she did focus on pursuing her dream. She worked hard and she graduated. Her luck followed her. She requested from her band, her First Nation band, the sponsorship of her tuition. Her and 19 other recent high school graduates made the same request. Unfortunately, the First Nations band had funds for only 10 young people's tuition, but she was chosen as one of the 10 recipients. When the First Nations band did send the tuition fees to be selected, to her selected university, Deborah was jumping for joy. She couldn't wait for late August. When late August came, Deborah was all smiles. At last, she was on her way to achieving her dream. But it didn't take long for her to realize that she was in trouble. Her knowledge of the English language and mathematics wasn't up to par. She was never taught how to learn. After 6 weeks at her institution, she still didn't know how to orient herself in this new academic world. Oh yes, in case you're wondering, she did attend 2 days of orientation, like all other students at the start of the year, but it didn't do the trick. The sad case is Deborah's experience is not unique. Thousands of Indigenous kids from across Canada enroll in our universities and our colleges each year. They join the program late August with high hopes for a better future. However, many hundreds are soon discouraged and leave their institution by the holidays and never return back. Deborah's dream is shattered. Here she is with no way out. The community lost its investments in Deborah. Tuition fees were paid to the school, and it also received their per capita government contribution. Life moves on for most, but promising futures for this young Indigenous woman, Deborah, is gone. She wanted so much to break out of her family's cycle of violence, poverty, and lack of opportunities. However, we are here today to talk about innovation towards a better future. I cannot imagine with all this brain power gathered in this room today, and with goodwill, a new and innovative pathway could be found to help thousands of young Indigenous people become successful students. Even from a purely economic viewpoint, education brings not just private benefits, such as breaking the cycle of poverty, but also substantial positive externalities to Canadian society. So, please consider how innovation could enable Indigenous peoples to become full contributors to Canada's social economic fabric of our Canadian society and global communities. Miigwech, Bamapi, all my relations.
Thank you very much, Denise Anne. I left my questions over there. I don't think there were any questions. Can we take one quick question from the room because I didn't get any here? All right, Rongo. think what we're going to do is we'll just move through the speakers then, and then we'll collect questions.